Hello, my name is Colt Aldridge, and this brief commentary is an assignment for my Lifespan Development class at Illinois State University. Today, I will be discussing death, dying, and grief, and how a grief counselor can help bridge the gap between the old normal and the new normal. William Shakespeare once wrote, "Everyone can master grief, but he who has it." The first thing friends, family, and loved ones tend to focus on when discussing grief is moving on. But truly, people do not move on. People learn to move forward with their grief. Laura McInerney is a writer who lost her father to cancer and then experienced the death of her husband 2 months later from brain cancer. Her TED Talk gives a very personal and powerful take on grief. Here's a small portion of what she had to say.
And not all wounds are meant to heal. We need each other to remember, to help each other remember that grief is this multitasking emotion, that you can and will be sad and happy, you'll be grieving and able to love in the same year or week, the same breath. We need to remember that a grieving person is going to laugh again and smile again. If they're lucky, they'll even find love again. That yes, absolutely, they're going to move forward. But that doesn't mean that they've moved on.
Bereavement can come with significant health concerns. A paper by Colin Parks, a consultant psychiatrist, highlights that bereavement can increase the risk of death from heart disease and suicide. So it is important to find a healthy way to deal with loss. Grief does not always require clinical intervention. The support of families and friends can greatly influence a person's recovery. A grief counselor supports people throughout the stages of grief, which are denial, anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. Grief counselors can use many different techniques. A few highlighted by Dr. Niemeyer of the University of Memphis include retelling the death of a loved one. The retelling of a death enforces patients to master their emotions and remember what they felt when they saw or heard about the events. This focuses on staying present with emotions and not avoiding them. Another technique is journaling. People experiencing grief can journal and write about their experiences to find meaning. Or people can listen to music and retell their loss through a musical narrative. These are just a few of many examples highlighted by Dr. Niemeyer. It is important for people to explore many different strategies to figure out what helps them the most. Grief counseling can show significant effectiveness when practiced properly. A study conducted by PhD students in Kenya focused on treating complicated grief in orphan children. This study demonstrated the effectiveness of modified complicated grief therapy as a possible program for schools to adopt. This therapy includes grief monitoring, evaluations of thoughts and feelings, narrating memories of the deceased, learning adaptive coping mechanisms, and many other techniques. Screenings were gathered before and after therapy using a brief grief questionnaire, and the scores of these questionnaires were recorded. The findings demonstrated that modified complicated grief therapy proved to cause a significant decline in grief levels in the children that participated. Evaluating and narrating emotions over several weeks can help a person understand themselves better and how to live with their emotions rather than avoid them. Another study, in 2017, focused on the effectiveness of grief counseling through a community-based organization. The people tested were adults that had experienced the death of someone they had close relations with. Data was gathered initially and at 12 and 18 months. Compared to a control group of people that received no treatment, the group of adults that had participated in the therapy showed a significant decrease in symptoms at the follow-up at 18 months. This study helps enforce that grief counseling can help long-term progress and not only serve as a temporary solution. Links to these studies and the sources utilized for this commentary can be found in the description. Grief counseling helps people evaluate and understand their emotions instead of pushing them down and trying to avoid them. Instead of learning to move on, people can learn to live with their emotions. Feelings of grief can happen to anyone because death is unavoidable. Loss can cause emotions to take over someone's daily life. It is important to be aware of the outlets available and utilize them properly. Thank you for listening.